It's time for Recipe of the Day. I have several recipes on my websites for how to cook chicken thighs. Most of them are for baking or like pan searing. But in the last couple of months, I've gotten a few questions in the comments for those recipes asking how to boil chicken thighs, or more specifically, how long to boil chicken thighs. And so I answered the questions there, and then it occurred to me that I should probably do an actual tested recipe post podcast episode about this topic for the people who are asking the question. Now, when they're asking about boiling, I am guessing that they mean what I would call poaching. The difference only would be, to me, boiling means that the water is at like a really high, like boiling temperature, whereas poaching would be a little bit lower. I'm really doing poaching more than I am boiling. And then a good question is, why or when would you want to do this? Why would you simmer, poach, boil chicken? It's not my favorite way to cook chicken, but I've definitely done it. I've done it for making like chicken salad. It's a very nice, gentle way to cook the chicken for that. I've done it sort of more like making soup, where I have all kinds of chicken pieces in a pot with water, and then I'm simmering them until they're cooked through. Then I'll take the chicken out, and then I have the water with like whatever aromatics were in there as the base for the soup. I've done it for that. And then I know that a lot of people also do it for like meal prep, food prep kind of thing. If you want to cook up a whole bunch of chicken really quick, and then you have that chicken meat, you can shred it, you can cube it up, and then you have it there to use in all kinds of different meals. So that is why you'd want to do this. And as I'm talking you through this, I'm also going to be talking about the different kinds of chicken thighs, because they're going to require different amounts of time. So boneless, skinless chicken thighs, bone-in chicken thighs, whether or not they have the bone, and then frozen chicken thighs that can be frozen in a few different ways. So I'll be covering all of those. So the different ways that you can freeze chicken thighs are, if you get a pack of chicken thighs at the grocery store and they are boneless, skinless, but they're kind of like in little bundles, you know, where they took the bone out from in the middle of that chicken thigh and then they've kind of wrapped the meat back around. Those little bundles, you can have those sort of frozen on the tray. Like you got it home from the grocery store, maybe it was in your fridge for a couple of days, you realize you're not going to use it, and you just put that package in the freezer. So there's that like pack of chicken thighs that are all frozen together. And then there's individually frozen chicken thighs. So then you would take them and maybe freeze them on a pan or freeze them in a bag, but kind of spread out. Those are going to take a little bit less time. And then there's also, you can buy frozen chicken thighs in like a bag where they've actually frozen them flat. So they seem to have unrolled them. They're not in those bundles anymore. And now they're like, you know, 1/2 or 3/4 inch thick, and they're a little bit bigger. They're as much as like 4 or 5 inches wide, flat frozen chicken thighs. Those are going to be different as well. So I'm going to run through all of those different kinds of chicken thighs, how to cook them, and the different times for them. So first you need a skillet, pan, something with a lid where you can fit your chicken thighs in a single layer, whether they are fresh or frozen. You really want them to not have like a pile on top of each other. And that's just because when one is on top of another, it's pushing down on it and it's hard for it to cook in between there. Now, if you do want to, for some reason, you really want to just load that pot up with your chicken thighs, you can. You just have to make sure that you're moving them around a lot so that they're cooking evenly. But if you were just going to do what I would typically do and sort of put them in there and cook them and maybe flip them over one time, that's not going to work if you have them in like a pile. Okay. So you really want to find a pot or skillet that has a lid that is about the size that'll fit most of them in a single layer. Then you are going to be putting the chicken thighs into the pan with cold water, and you don't season the chicken thighs themselves because you're going to add the water to them and it's going to wash that off. So you're going to season the water, and you actually want the water to taste very well seasoned, a little bit salty, and you can even use stock or broth. That's going to work really well and add really nice flavor. And then you want to add some flavorings to the water, but it matters what you add. So I see people do things like bay leaves and peppercorns, even like chunks of onion, chunks of garlic. That's not going to do very much, because by the time that the water warms up and those flavors have a chance to kind of get into the water, they're not then going to have time to get into the chicken unless you like made your flavorful broth with the water first and then put it with the chicken. You see what I mean? I find it better to use finely ground spices, things like garlic powder and onion powder. That's going to penetrate more. I'll often throw in half a lemon or a couple wedges of lemon into there as well. That seems to penetrate a little bit. But most things that are like whole, big, and chunky, they're not going to have a huge effect on getting flavor into the chicken. You really just want to make sure that you have nice saltiness in there and then a little bit more other flavors. What will work really well is liquid flavors. So adding a little bit of Worcestershire sauce or even hot sauce, anything liquid, that's going to, of course, disperse in the water and get into that chicken meat as it's cooking right away. So those are good ideas as well. So you're arranging your chicken in a single layer in whichever pan you have found, and then you're adding the water and the flavorful ingredients. One thing I will say for all of the chicken thighs that I'm talking about, they're just going in a single layer in there as you would, except for those bigger flat frozen ones I told you about. Those are so big that you're not going to be able to fit very many in a single layer like that. So instead, arrange them vertically so they are like books on a shelf, and then they will be sort of touching each other, but they're not going to be putting pressure downwards onto each other. And so you can fit more of them in there, and that is the best way to arrange them for cooking them from frozen in this boil poaching method. Okay, so you've got the chicken in the pot, you're adding the water. You want the water to come about 2 inches above them, and that's just because you do want a lot of this water. It's going to help keep the temperature stable as well if you have a lot of water with the chicken. And then your seasonings and everything are in there. And then you're going to bring it to a boil over high heat, uncovered, and then flip the chicken over or jiggle them around, move them around a little bit, and then cover it and reduce the heat down to low to simmer until the chicken has reached 165 degrees internally and is no longer pink inside. That is going to be 10 to 12 minutes for boneless chicken thighs, whether or not they have the skin. 15 to 18 minutes for bone-in chicken thighs, also whether or not they have the skin. Okay, so then for the frozen chicken thighs, if they are all frozen together in a clump, like you got them home on a tray, remember I was saying, and you stuck them in the freezer, now you want to thaw them, you can totally do that. You need to remove all the packaging from them. If there's any packaging stuck to them, run them under cold water until you can get any of that, like that absorbent pad underneath, plastic, styrofoam, all of that has to be off. Then that whole clump can go into your pan, 2 inches of water over top, and you're going to simmer them, like bring it up to a boil and then simmer them, checking every now and then until you can loosen them apart. Use some tongs for that because you do want the water to be able to circulate between them. And then after they are separated, it's going to be 12 to 15 minutes of simmering if they're boneless, 50 to 20 if they have the bone in. And that's after you've managed to get them apart. So they're still like frozen in the middle of each one, but they're no longer stuck together. Okay. Now, if they were frozen individually, but they are in their little bundles, then it is 15 to 17 minutes for boneless and 22 to 26 minutes for bone in. Again, it doesn't matter if they have the skin or not. And then our final kind of chicken are those flat ones that you've arranged like shelves on a book, frozen. Those are going to be about 12 to 14 minutes. And just notice, like, because they are vertical that way, you probably need more of like a soup pot. You need something a little bit deeper to make sure that the water is going a good 2 inches over that, right? But if you have a soup pot, you could fit like a whole bag of those chicken thighs in there like that. And once the water comes up to a boil, it's going to be about 12 to 14 minutes to cook those through. And at the end of that, you just transfer them to a big plate or cutting board, and you can use them immediately, or you can let them cool. You can shred them, you can chop them, whatever you want to do with them. And then you put them in the fridge in a container, and you can use them for, 3 to 4 days. You can also freeze that cooked chicken meat. I like to put it into a zip top bag and then make sure that as much air as possible is out of there, seal it, and that's going to be good in there for 2 to 3 months for sure. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there, or find it in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. And hey, just a quick note. I'm on a recording hiatus right now, so for the next little while, I'm replaying playing episodes from the archives, including this one. If you heard me mention a holiday, a season, or something going on in my life that seemed a bit off, that's why. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're enjoying these older episodes. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, cookfor2.us, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.